Thanks our viewers for joining us. I'm Karagaba Baldwins and we're coming to you live from the Kampala International Conference Center. We are still going to discuss business. Thanks indeed for keeping with us even after this news broadcast. We're going to talk about a technical aspect in business called trademarks, which is an intellectual property aspect. And before we go into the very technical details in the studio discussion, let's have just an introduction to give you an overview of this subject.
The 1883 Paris Convention for Protection of Industrial Property is the international legal instrument that stipulates provisions applicable to the recognition and the enforcement of trademarks registered in country of origin. Uganda is a contracting party to the Paris Convention for Protection of Industrial Property 1883, and its domestic legislation, which is the 2010 Trademarks Act, recognizes the provisions of this convention. The law in Uganda recognizes the principle of territoriality as expressed in Article 6 of the Paris Convention, but does not forbid the registration of a trademark on the ground that it could be registered elsewhere. However, it accords a right to register by an owner registered in a country of origin. When an application for registration of a trademark is made, it has to be published, and the law gives any person the right to give notice of opposition or objection to the registration of the mark sought to be registered, and it is published for the public to have an opportunity to object to it. The term trade dress is the local feel of a product, its shape, packaging and design that signify the sources of the products to the consumers. On the other hand, trademarks are brand names which are labeled to products and services. The mark is a distinguished sign like a word, a phrase, symbol or a combination of these elements. It is used in the business to indicate the source of the brand in order to distinguish and identify it in markets. A trademark is supposed to protect the customers by preventing public confusion as to the origin or quality of the product. Because Uganda is facing a huge crisis of counterfeits in its economy, the Uganda Registration Services Bureau, URSB, in conjunction with NTV, bring to you this vital discussion about the urgent need and essence of ensuring a formidable trademarks protection regime in this country. You're welcome.
Indeed, and we're on our social media platforms. We are streaming live there, so you can go and follow us up in case you're somewhere not on set. But we are live on air here, online, on the Facebook, on our Facebook platform, on Twitter, and on YouTube. And so let me just get into straight the discussion with my studio panelists. And on the extreme left, I have Gilbert Karagaba, the manager intellectual property, URSB. Gilbert, you're welcome once again.
Thanks for having me.
Indeed, and have an elegant officer from the Uganda Police, Harriet Nabudua, Legal Officer, Enforcement Unit, URSB, and Assistant Superintendent of Police. Wow, you work in two institutions.
Yes.
Harriet, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, so Gilbert, let me just get straight into this technicality of the trademarks. To start with, of course, it's a component of intellectual property aspects. Give us just a slight snippet of the legal regime, the legal framework in which we operate, intellectual property aspect, and of course give a certain explanation about trademarks, how they fall into this entire package.
Okay. Thank you, Baldwins. We are from URSB. URSB is Uganda Registration Services Bureau. It's the National Intellectual Property Office. Our mandate includes administration of all intellectual property laws that provide or protect for the different types of intellectual property rights. We have the Trademarks Act, which provides for protection of trademarks. Trademarks are distinctive signs that we use in business to distinguish our products in the marketplace. So any sign you use, whether it be a word, numerals, whether it be a picture, whether it be a logo, a slogan, all these can constitute a trademark, and we administer the law that provides for protection of trademarks. That is the Trademarks Act of 2010. We have what is called the Industrial Property Act. The Industrial Property Act provides for protection of patents.
And on the screen, those are just the outlines of the laws that are governing the
Yes, so we have the Industrial Property Act that provides for protection of patents. Patents protect inventions. So if you create any new technical solution to any given problem in an industry, that's called an invention, you can protect it at URSB, and you have the exclusive right to work that invention in the country. The Industrial Property Act also protects what are called designs, the industrial designs. That is how products look like. The aesthetic features of products, the ornamental features of products. So the shape of a bottle, the shape of any given product, a belt, clothing, cars, anything. You can protect that shape so that you are the only person who can exclusively use that design on your products. You have to register for Uganda, you have to register with URSB. That, as I said, is protected under the Industrial Property Act. We have others. We have the Copyright Enabling Rights Act. This provides for protection of copyright. Copyright relates to literary and artistic works. So things like books, films, architecture works, sculptures, photographs, music, all these things are protected by the copyright law. Again, this law is administered by URSB. We have other laws. We have what is called the Geographical Indications Act. The Geographical Indications Act protect for what are called geographical indications in the essence of it. So if you have a name used on goods, which goods have unique characteristics that are attributable to a certain geographical area, you can protect that name as a geographical indication. All these laws, like I mentioned, are administered by URSB. Yes.
Wow, pretty plentiful of technical terms and issues, which we're going to get into much deeper focus, especially on the trademarks.
Yes.
Now, Harriet, you are working for both Uganda Police and URSB, which is sounds quite challenging to understand. So just help us to understand how URSB deals with this component of protection of intellectual property rights, especially trademarks. Yes.
So URSB derives its power or mandate for protecting and promoting trademarks, basically from the laws of Uganda. The Uganda Registration Services Bureau that creates that particular, the URSB, then it is engaged in that registration process. It is an information house for anything about trademarks. And it also provides data, it provides that trademark register. So that's a key role, because if you want information, if you want to register a trademark, if you want anything to do with the trademarks, you come to URSB. So that is one role it's doing. Another role that URSB is playing is reviewing the efficacy of the laws. The manager, intellectual property, and other colleagues previously, they've engaged in reviewing the trademarks law to see whether it's in tandem with the current circumstances, and that's a key role to see that the law is in movement with what is happening. Another thing is how we were brought on board in 2016, URSB, because of that role of enforcement of these laws that it administers. It entered into a memorandum of understanding with the Uganda Police Force, and that created the Intellectual Property Enforcement Unit, and our mandate is to investigate cases of counterfeit and piracy and see that that court process is achieved. And that's a key role, because we are housed at the national office. We get expertise knowledge about the trademark and whether there's infringement or not, still from the national office. So URSB, someone said a testimony recently at a workshop that URSB is on the right track as far as trademarks are concerned. Yes.
Okay, and trademarks is simply part of the wider intellectual property aspects. Yes. And I think today is exclusively the focus on trademarks because of the excessive counterfeit deluge on our market, a serious challenge that the economy faces. So just help explicate exactly how distinct trademarks are, because you're talking about copyrights. I know you try to give a certain explanation on all those aspects, the copyrights aspects, the patents, then the trademarks. How distinct are those? Isn't it just a repetition of different components in this whole fight for protection of intellectual property rights?
Trademarks obviously are distinct from the other types of IP, of intellectual property. Maybe I should have mentioned that intellectual property generally is creations of the mind. So that every time you use your mind to create something, you create intellectual property. Now, one of the types of IP that you create that is protected by law is trademarks, like I've said. Trademarks are distinctive signs and marks that you use in business to distinguish the goods and services of those businesses in the market. So, for example, we are now at NTV. NTV's trademark is NTV, that blue,
the logo,
red, yes, logo. That's their trademark. That's the sign they use to distinguish their broadcasting
Not
services.
a copyright.
No, that's not copyright.
Okay.
It has some component of copyright, but if we go there, we might now create some confusion. But the trademark is that sign that you use to distinguish the process.
That is the Trademarks Act 2010 that legislates how trademarks are done.
Yes, so the trademark does not identify the business, it identifies the products of the business. So the company that owns NTV is not actually called NTV.
True.
Yes, so that is the company.
It's called Africa Broadcasting Corporation, or NMG, National Media Group.
Okay, National Media Group. It owns a business whose brand or trademark is NTV. So every business, and this is, everyone knows it, it's almost instinctive for every business person, that if I'm going to put my products in the market, I must identify them. And the mark you use on that product is called a trademark. For you to be protected, you must register it with URSB. If you do not register it, you are liable for that mark to be taken by someone else, and that person can register it and stop you from using that mark.
Even if you are earlier on the market with that same mark.
If you are early on the market, you have certain rights. But to get to that point of you claiming those rights, this person might have even swamped you and pushed you off the market. There is a process, obviously, to establish that you have earlier rights. Okay,
and just about that explanation, let me just take a break. I believe our viewers have understood what we're going to be digging into. And that's a discussion on trademarks and an intellectual property component that helps to safeguard the running of businesses in the economy. Let's get into a break. We'll come back just right after that. Thanks for joining us again. We are discussing trademarks and intellectual property aspect that helps in the administration of the business environment in a country. And we posted a question on Twitter and Facebook asking you, are trademarks and copyrights, which are intellectual property rights, still relevant in Uganda's economy? And Sekanyo William says, nothing is applicable in my country. Wandama Festus says, so applicable since we are living in a global village where learning from other countries has been made cheap, and Uganda's only hindrance is the tax legislation. Then Yusuf Ampire says to a smaller extent. Then Jude Tedros says maybe 60%. And lastly, Dumba Hakim, there is no such in Uganda. Maybe we will have it. Then I can't be able to interpret the statement he has made there. But thanks for your contributions on the social media platforms. Please continue. I'll keep on citing as I deem it necessary. So, Harriet, I think let me come to you. As you can hear the response from the public, some people are skeptical, others are supportive. And there is a case against trademarks conformity, just to get a certain argument out of here in against trademarks. There is a gentleman called K.E. Maskas, an Illinois University professor. He says that intellectual property rights are somehow contestable, that first of all, it involves a lot of costs. Then the detail of trying to securitize your brand or your trademark in the market in this global village is extremely difficult, because you can have a geographical protection here, someone steals it and takes it into another country, and you can be swamped up, of course, if that person who has had it elsewhere brings those as imports. So are these intellectual property rights promotions really relevant in our economy of this kind?
Trademarks are very relevant. They are very, very needed in this economy. If you do not register your trademark is like your property, like a piece of land, like a car. So registration of a trademark it's the backbone for enforcement, because if it's not registered, then we cannot protect you. If your land is not registered in your name, then you have those issues. Actually, all those complaints are coming out of not registering a trademark or not having it properly governed in accordance with the law. Also, trademarks are relevant because they protect consumers and also contribute to consumers' safety and health. Because a trademark, if I am going out to get a given trademark, I know this is what I want. So if it is not registered, if it's not there, it's practically, there's just a way that formal sector is falling apart. But if you have a trademark, you're able to know that this is what I am looking for, this is what I want, and it informs consumer choice. So trademarks are really relevant.
So let's talk about the cost, because URSB definitely demands that you pay a certain fee. Actually, fees, not even just one single fee. You have to make a search report fees payment. You have to make an application fees payment. You have to make a registration fees payment. And yeah, the sum might not be that enormous, but it's still a cost. And so there's a certain skepticism on the public that actually URSB is promoting this simply to make fees, to get money, and just make URSB pockets pretty bigger. But in actual essence, these issues on the market, because of piracy and counterfeitism, they're not of any significance to the business practitioner on the ground.
I think that I would argue contrary to that position, because if your mark is registered, then we come in to protect you. And counterfeit is that you are copying someone's trademark, which is registered, and you're applying it in a way that is substantially similar to that person's trademark. So you're sort of stealing that person's intellectual property, and that's why we come in to protect the registered trademark owner. And the money is for government. It is contributing to government revenue. It's not particularly for URSB, and as the manager will explain, they are not enormous fines and fees. They're not really enormous. Maybe we have the publication aspect, where you have to advertise to the whole world that this is my property, and that attraction, that informing the whole world, it really costs something, but that is regulated not by URSB but by another governing body. But the fees are not that enormous.
Yes, for registration is 100,000, for application for applying just to make sure that your trademark is registered is 50,000, and such fee is 20,000. That is quite some money.
But you're getting property. You're acquiring property. Okay. That intellectual property is your property.
All right.
And you can assign it. You can transfer it. You can work. It can build your business. It builds business.
Okay.
Yes.
So Robert, rather Gilbert, have let out the cat out of the housing. So. Give us just a slight detail expose of the process that is undertaken for someone to register that trademark. Yes. Those are the costs on the dashboard.
Yes, as you can see, the costs are a bargain, because when you register your trademark, you get an asset for your business. This is a valuable asset that you can always exchange for value for any other reason, for any person interested in your business. The registration fees that we charge are not, to say they're expensive. It's costly because you are getting property, but that's you are not getting nothing for nothing. You are paying for valuable assets that you can go and use in your business and benefit. And when you register, you also get the right to claim rights over use of that trademark. So you do not leave it out to anyone to come and misappropriate it. So there is value for you paying those fees, as you can see on the screen. And these fees, when you're applying, the process takes about 3 months. Those 3 months are not because we are not doing a job, but it's actually the process that's set in the law on how you register your mark. So there's an application form. It's just one form. Anyone can fill it. It's available on our website. If you go to our website, you find a form called TM2, The website of URSB is ursb.go.ug. You get that form, you fill it, you put your logo or your trademark. There's a place where you put it. You tell us who you are, you sign it, the goods on which you are using this trademark, and you pay, like you said, the application fee is 50,000. There's a search fee because we have a database. We don't want duplicate names or duplicate marks to appear on the database, so we'll search and we charge you 25,000. That's application. So there's a process.
Why would you charge me money to search a name simply to make a confirmation, or just to ascertain that this name already exists on the register? When you're in possession of that register, does it make sense to you to make that charge?
It makes sense. I could answer it rhetorically that if everyone who made an application, we just put it on the register, what will happen if two of you come up with a resembling mark? What will happen to you? You will not be able to distinguish your product in the market. So the search is part of the process of ensuring that we give you something that you take out there and use and actually benefit from and get a competitive advantage as you trade in whatever you're trading in. So it's important. So you will do that search, you will examine the application, the process we go through, they are required by law, and after that we publish the application in the Gazette. Gazette is a government publication for 60 days. That's why I said it takes about 3 months for it to complete the process. So when you pay the 75,000 that I mentioned at the beginning, you have a whole month to look for money to pay for registration.
The 100,000.
Yes, actually not a whole month, 2 months. Yes, which is 100,000. And this process, you can control it. So you can look for this money because you are getting something in return. When you register, you have the right to exclusively use the mark. You'll be registered first time for 7 years, and thereafter you can renew it forever. Every 10 years, you have to maintain it on the register. You pay a certain fee, and we maintain it on the register. That's one. Two, if you register in this country, people have been mentioning that we're in the global market. When we're starting, we saw a video about what they call the Paris Convention for the Protection of Industrial Property. Now that system establishes like minimum standards on how we can administer IP rights in different countries. So if you register in Uganda, you can go to another country that is party to that treaty and claim that you first registered in your country, and therefore anyone else who is registering this mark or trying to register it in that country, they should be stopped and they should put you on that register. Remember, for you to get rights in that country, you must register in that country, every single country. But as you know, as a business person, you are not interested in everywhere. There are places where you're actually selling, you're exporting your products, and this is where you have to register your mark. So if your main businesses or customers are in Kenya, then you register in Kenya. You might not need to register in the Faroe Islands, for example, because you don't even know where that place is. So why should you bother? You register where the market is. You do it strategically. So there is actual protection. And when you register, like you heard from my colleague, we can then protect you and enforce against those who use a resembling or identical mark to your registered mark without your authorization. If they do that, that's called infringement, and the products are counterfeit products. So counterfeiting can only happen when you have registered your trademark. If you do not register, there is no counterfeit. Okay.
So you who is trying to complain, you cannot complain that there's someone counterfeiting my product unless you had initially registered your trademark. Okay, pretty explicit and I think clear. And just coming to you, Harriet, I am trying to look here. And there is the 2011 Inter-Consumer Products case, which was in between there's a company called Nice and Lovely, which you well know, and it was before Justice Christopher Madramas in the Uganda Commercial Division High Court. And the applicant, who is Nice and Lovely, I guess you have a clue about that, came against a certain company which had registered the product Nice and Soft by Nice and Soft Investment. And somehow the case was struck down. The applicant was denied that. But the reason I'm bringing up this kind of background is I want to understand how does an ordinary person who has perhaps undertaken this process of getting the trademark or copyright registered get to find justice against infringement, against counterfeits, because UNBS made a survey, and in 2018 says that 54% of the products on the market themselves are counterfeits. Just in that environment, does an ordinary business person really have capacity to gain redress against infringement?
Yes.
And if you have, you need to give a record of how successful you've been in case you have any cases to refer to, if you have any evidence of that.
Yes. An ordinary person can start the process of justice two ways. Can go civil, can go criminal. For criminal, that is the mandate of the Intellectual Property Enforcement Unit. You commence the process by writing a letter to the Registrar General at URSB, and in the letter you include details that you are a registered trademark owner, infringement is happening at such and such a place, and provide some details to commence investigations. Thereafter, you provide samples of your product and a test purchase of the other infringing product, so that we can submit it for analysis to see actually whether there's infringement or it's not there. So after that, we engage with the trademark owner and then prepare to go and get the counterfeited items, and we have submitted cases to court to that effect and gotten convictions. Like
which one? Can you give, at least if it's already concluded cases, there's no prejudice here, or rather subjudice?
Yes.
So yes, any example?
I'll comment on an HP case that is for toner cartridges. Yes, we just yesterday we in court in respect of a Chinese national, foreign national, who was counterfeiting HP products. They were using the HP mark on products that are not HP products. They import them in parts and then distribute them to retailers, different, like the box alone, the cartridge, the labels, and then they assemble that product right here in Uganda. So yesterday we got actually the maximum punishment. He was given 5 years or a payment of a fine of 120 on 4 counts. So that's about a total of 7 million, yes. All imprisonment for 5 plus 5 plus 4 years, 15 years. So they opted to pay a fine. Yes.
Yeah, so I don't understand how extensive the powers of UNBS are, because if you have to, you as a person who is a business individual operator in the environment, you have to trace counterfeits against your product which you have trademark registered. Where is the government? Why should it be the burden of me who actually registered? You have my, that I need to identify what is counterfeit on the market for you to deal with it. Why isn't government dealing with this counterfeit problem? Especially in the context of URSB. I know this is a far wider subject, but I just want to understand how reaching is the power and the mandate of URSB in curbing such a problem.
Manager will explain, but intellectual property is a private right, yes. So the responsibility of policing it is really on you. So the government is putting us in place to assist you to tell us that this is my property, and it's not a penal offense like defilement or murder. It's you who knows your property, those intricate details of this is how my trademark actually looks like, and so is, you know, copying it like this and this. So that is why the burden is on you to tell us and reveal that information, and then we pick it up from there. We work with you to see that you get justice.
Okay, Gilbert, before I go deeper, let me go for a break and come back and just help to sort this dilemma out. Thanks our viewers for keeping with us. Let's go for a break and we'll be right back to conclude this discussion. I'm Karagaba Baldwins once again, and we're bringing you a discussion, a very decent discussion on a very critical matter of business operations in an economic environment. And on our On our social media platforms, we posted a question asking you about your opinion on the relevance of these intellectual property rights. And Stephen Gumisieza says that we have a very uncaring public, that most of what is embedded in the copyright and trademarks are not followed to the letter, so it's not possible. Then Felix Lutaya says, nothing is not, nothing is up. Okay, I don't know how to start. Nothing is applicable. The problem is that the tax enforcing bodies that sleep on the job. We had lots of great musicians with tremendous music, but their pieces have been pirated, duplicated by upcoming musicians who have made huge chunks of money from without sharing with the families of the deceased. So that is the case against Trademarks and the entire collection of IPs. Gilbert, what is being done collectively as the region of East Africa? Because definitely the arrangement is that we are supposed to be a common market, and this is a very rampant problem. All right, what is the partnership or cooperation all over the region, besides just looking at Uganda? And we've just seen that you're doing a tremendous job as URSB in putting up laws and making sure you register people. However, the complaint is out there. Counterfeits are extremely a rampant problem. So what is the effort in the region generally? Because we cannot deal with this issue, I think, alone as a country.
Well, there are two parts to it. One is that we cannot do outside there what we're not doing inside our own country. And like you've correctly observed, one of the first things we've done is that we have established, or the government has established a decent legal regime to protect trademarks. I know people are talking about things of piracy, but that's a subject for another day. That deals with copyright. So, but for trademarks, we have the legal framework in place. Like I said, this law is administered by URSB. URSB has offices around the country, in Kampala here, in Mbale, in Arua, in Gulu, in Mbara, and also you can find us online, obviously, to access our services. That's the second thing. So the institutional framework is available. 3, like you've heard from my colleague from police, we have established the intellectual property enforcement unit where she comes from, and their role is to deal with IP. That's why she's now talking about things of intellectual property, things that you would not ordinarily hear from if you got any police station. So if you have an issue, you can contact us, and these officers are trained with the technical skills to understand what the problem is. When you go and complain, in some place we've received reports where people complain that, someone is counterfeiting my product, and they are told that no, this brand name is for everyone to use. What's your interest in this? Let them use. They are after all trying to make some money. But we understand from our perspective that that's theft, that is counterfeiting, that is a crime which we can prosecute through our IP enforcement unit. And the relationship is not only with police, we also work with the Directorate of Public Prosecutions to deal with the prosecution of offenses, because we are not taking these people out of the market and just throwing them in cells and leaving it at that. We want to prosecute all cases to their logical conclusion. So work with DPP, and they have assisted us through their staff to prosecute these matters. We also, obviously, of the judiciary, which established a specialized court, the standards, the Utilities and Wildlife Court at Buganda Road. Their job is to deal with these kinds of issues alone. So they are specialized to provide these services, and most of our cases are prosecuted through that court at Buganda Road. So institutionally, obviously, there are other corporations with URA to deal with border issues, because most of the products are imported into the country. And if you make a complaint to URA that someone is bringing in counterfeit products, obviously you can go, they will hold on to that product for a certain period of time and give you time to go to court and get an order to impound these products before they enter the channels of commerce. Our experience has been that it's difficult to detect these things as they come in. Normally we detect them when they're already on the market, and when they come, you can still contact us that you've had this experience, and our officers will be ready to help you to sort the problem. So, but going back to the regional aspect you've talked about.
For instance, there's a Mkwano product. Let me just give a scenario, just conjecture. There's a Mkwano, a producer of Mkwano products in Kenya, but is not permitted or is not having any kind of permission, rather, from the Mkwano headquarters, from the proprietors of the Mkwano brand. They are doing so in Kenya. How would perhaps Mkwano, in that case, deal with that infringement?
In Kenya?
Yes.
Yes. Like I said, intellectual property, and this is everywhere in the world, you are protected in each territory in which you apply for registration. There is no such thing as an international trademark. There are, however, regional systems to register in multiple countries at the same time. So in Kenya, there is a system called under the organization called the African Regional Intellectual Property Organization. This organization, ARIPO, is based in Harare, Zimbabwe. Uganda is one of the founding members of that organization. Actually, the first head of that organization was the Ugandan, Justice Ntabgoba. So that organization, through that organization, you can apply in about 10 countries to register your trademark. Most of these countries are found in South Central Africa, with 2 in West Africa. But even then, you have to get registration in those different countries. So it's not like you will get a regional trademark. So you have to go to Kenya. For example, in the example you're giving, Mkwano has to go to Kenya and register their mark. And like I've told you, if there's someone else who's using their mark in Kenya, if they've registered in Uganda prior to this person applying in that country, they can go with the Ugandan certificate and claim their rights under the Paris Convention that we mentioned at the beginning and say, I am registered in my home country and I want to register in this country. This person and these goods he's selling are actually from my home country. So this person, I have a better right to this mark than this person here. And the Kenyan office will most likely grant him the right to use that trademark in that country. Yes.
Okay, pretty profound, and I hope it works, because otherwise we will not manage to deal with this rampant problem of counterfeits and the infringement on people's registered IPs. So Harriet, just as we are about to wrap up, give the economic argument, okay, of trademarks. Can a country really, rather, does a country seriously need this? Does it make any economic enhancement? Because when you look at countries like China, which have grown through very phenomenal, surprising trajectories of getting actually to infringe on other people's trademarks and copyrights and duplicate or they counterfeit their products. And they have grown a massive economy that all Africa literally depends on, and they are very successful. Why should it be a demand on an economy like ours that we should have a systematic following of these rules of IP?
A strong regime that protects intellectual property rights attracts investors. It does, because they will feel safe to come and invest in a country where they will be protected. And if you are an intellectual property rights holder, and you know and you are secure that you'll be protected, your rights will be protected, you'll be engaged in creating and innovating more, because you're secure that your property, at least the trademark that you so far have, is safe. And innovation creations provide employment. They do. At the innovation stage, at the production stage, at the marketing stage, NTV is providing employment for many people in Uganda, in Kenya, because of creativity of NTV and the related aspects. A strong IP protection regime, it compels these people who are in counterfeits. We've had clients who do not want anything to do with counterfeiting after they go through that process. We had a case of Nakumat, where the trademark of Nakumat was an issue when it was in liquidation. In the process, we seized the items that had been stolen during that process, and also some other items. So the Office of the Directorate of Public Prosecutions advised that we return the products that the person had proved ownership. So there was just a small, I think it was a baby container that had the Nakumatt label. And the person was, don't give me anything to do with Nakumatt, because they're at that point where they're just tired of counterfeit. So a strong enforcement regime serves sometimes to transform those ones who are not hardcore. And sometimes these counterfeit products, they are not subject to the government tests, the rigorous tests. People do things underground to take advantage of a trademark that is trending, and do not take into account safety measures, healthy measures. If the drugs, sometimes the ingredients for healing are missing. So if they come up, if we seize your item and then we give you a chance to expose it to government, we are contributing to that battle. At least we are assisting other organs that are involved, like National Drug Authority, Uganda National Bureau of Standards, and contributing to that effect. And to deal with importing counterfeits from abroad, the law provides for an offense that prohibits you from importing and exporting counterfeits. So we target you because we won't go to China, but you who places your order, when you know that that is counterfeit, it is you we will deal with, and we will seize your items and then go through court process with the aim of having those items destroyed. Yes.
Okay, quite a compelling argument in support of your work. And Gilbert, just as we still just winding up, the second last question, just I think is imperative. How is government, besides you, of course, making this broadcast, supporting, partnering with us in making this broadcast, how are you sensitizing the public? Is the public really fully aware, especially people downtown, people operating in different trading centers, aware of all these requirements and of course the advantage of taking on trademarks or copyrights or patents registration, IP registration? What is government doing besides the legislation, and perhaps what you're doing tonight with us?
Yes, about maybe 5 or 7 years ago, the Justice and Law and Order sector did a survey to find out how whether the public was aware about even URSB, forget about even IP, and they found 11% of the public was aware, but that I can assure you has changed. I believe from even anecdotal evidence that there is an improvement in the awareness of our services to the public. Most people know us obviously because of company registration. That is what the other thing that URSB does. But like I told you, we also do intellectual property registration. Now, whether it's actually, there's actually change, you can also see from the numbers of people registering, locals who are registering their trademarks. On average now we receive about 2,000 applications each year from local applicants, that is me and you in Uganda doing our business and registering our marks. Obviously there's still room to grow, but that's a huge difference from where we are about 5 years ago. And we believe that sensitization or learning of the public will continue. It is not a one-day event, it is not one TV talk show and everything ends there. No, it will continue. We are using all sorts of forums to reach the public. We are here today on TV. You can find us online, like I mentioned. We're at URSB HQ, Upper Caps. You can find us in our physical offices. We are everywhere in the region. You can locate us even through the taxpayer register expansion program, the TREP offices in every municipality in this country. You can find URSB services and you'll get information about intellectual property. We also hold workshops here in the Kampala and in every region in this country. But most importantly, we have to show for those who are protected that their right matters, it counts. So if you register your IP and you have a challenge, I remember one gentleman from, actually one was from Bara, the other one was from Kasese. They made a complaint about someone misappropriating their trademarks or counterfeiting their marks. And they didn't think much would happen of it because they are located obviously up country. And they were surprised to see our office coming to attend to their complaint. And indeed, we solved their problem. Remember the gentleman in Kasese, he was able now to sell his juice. He was trading in juice because he removed these counterfeiters. But because he had registered, we were able to protect him. And we believe that makes more sense than mere words. So we can talk, but action
matters more.
Yes, it will speak the most. So if you have a complaint that your IP has been infringed, in this case trademark has been counterfeited, you come to URSB and then you can tell whether you've been it has mattered to you as a person who owns the trademark. And obviously if you're out there trading in whatever product, or you're manufacturing in whatever product, or you're providing whatever service, if you've not registered your mark, you are at a competitive disadvantage. You are not going to identify, we are not going to identify you, you are not protected, you are leaving yourself up to the whims of these criminals who may misappropriate your mark the moment your product gets a breakthrough in the market. So you have to protect you. And the other thing is that we notice that investors who come, like Nabudua mentioned, when they come, one of the first things they do is register their trademarks, because they know the value. Without the mark, there is nothing you're selling. I normally tell people that as a businessman, you are selling the brand. For us as consumers, we'll be buying the product or the goods or the service, but you are selling the brand. Because when you are telling me, watch NTV because it provides these kinds of services. So me, I'll watch NTV. I'm looking for those services you provide, but for you are promoting NTV. So if you do not protect NTV and someone else sets up another rival broadcasting organization and calls it NTV, what will happen to your business?
Collapse.
Yes, it will collapse. So you have to protect your brand. And like I say, this is intuitive, that if you're in business, you have to identify your products to the consumer, and you have to protect that identity that you give to your product. So we will continue this message, telling the public that you have to register. It's not a one-day event like I mentioned. This is something continuous, and you can find us on every platform. So we are on social media for those who are digital, and we're also analog. So we are on TV, we are also physically, we meet you, we are in trade shows all over the country. If you go to any activity involving business, you'll find there URSB. We have materials that we can share with you if you're interested in knowing more about IP. So we are doing what we can as an office, and we'll continue doing it. We're not going to stop, and we'll always put our money where our mouth is. So we allocated about 9% of our budget this year to enforcement. So we are not leaving it into the hands of the public to enforce their law. We are supplementing their work, saying that if you've registered with us, let us also help you enforce. But like Nabudua mentioned, it is your responsibility to police your trademark, because it is your property. If someone comes and steals your car, you cannot say, what is government doing about me leaving my car open? You take the step to inform the authorities that your car has been stolen. So take the same step to inform government that your IP has been misappropriated, and will take action.
Harriet, just 30 seconds. The future of IP enforcement and trademarks regime, what do you see? I hope we are not going to have this continuation of the same lamentation as you hear from social media responses.
I think the future of IP enforcement is promising. The court record shows that these business parties are engaged in talking to each other. They do not like custodial sentences of imprisonment. They like to pay fine and then continue with business normally. And it also shows that maybe they do not know that I need to register my mark. There's some sort of ignorance, so they need to be more aware, and they need to come on board, register their marks, and police their marks together with us.
Thank you. I hope next time when you're coming back next year about the same the same subject, we'll have a better record on that. And Gilbert Karagaba, Manager Intellectual Property, URSB, and Harriet Nabudua, Legal Officer, Enforcement Unit, URSB, and Assistant Superintendent of Police. I should have asked what that means, but time has run out. Thank you. You've been really incredibly brilliant in this discussion. I believe it has enhanced the understanding of this area to the general public. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and we are grateful to our URSB partners for always coming and making sure that we have a discussion of such significance. And if you're out there and you're a corporate agency or you're an NGO or a government agency, please come, talk to us, talk to our MD, talk to me, talk to our sales team. We'll have this discussion of your interest, that is, of course, in the public interest too, customized on our platform. I'm Karagaba Baldwins, and this is NTV. God bless you and have a great night.